My name is Emma Vance. I am 30 years old and I live in a quiet apartment in the city. It happened at Thanksgiving dinner. There was no shouting. There was no big fight. My mother simply looked across the table at me, wiped her mouth with a napkin, and told me the truth I had felt my entire life. She looked me in the eye and said, "Emma, you need to understand. Your sister's family will always come first. You are always last." The room went silent. The only sound was the clinking of silverware. I looked at my father. I waited for him to defend me. I waited for him to say she was wrong. Instead, he just nodded. He took a sip of his wine and looked away, agreeing with her silence. My heart broke, but my face stayed still. For years, I had tried to earn their love. I had worked so hard to prove I was worth something to them. But in that 1 second, I realized it would never be enough. They didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as an option. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I just looked at them with dry eyes and said 3 words. Good to know. That was the moment everything changed. That was the moment I finally stopped trying. But before I tell you how everything flipped, like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Emma Vance. I am 30 years old. I grew up in a house that looked normal from the outside. We had a nice lawn. We had 2 cars in the driveway. We had family photos on the wall. But if you looked closely at those photos, you would see the truth. In almost every picture, my sister Laya was in the center, smiling, holding my parents' hands. I was usually off to the side, or sometimes, I wasn't there at all because I was the one holding the camera. My house had a ranking system. It wasn't written on a chalkboard, but we all knew it. It was in the air we breathed. Rank number 1 was my father. Rank number 2 was my mother. Rank number 3 was Laya. And then, far down the list, after the house and the cars and the image of a perfect family, there was me. I learned this lesson very young. I remember when I was 7 years old. I fell off my bike and scraped my knee badly. It was bleeding and it hurt. I ran inside crying, looking for my mother. I found her in the kitchen, but she was busy braiding Laya's hair. Laya was sitting on a stool, looking like a princess. "Mom, I'm hurt," I sobbed, holding my knee. My mother didn't turn around. She just sighed, a loud, heavy sigh that meant I was annoying her. "Emma, stop crying," she said. "Can't you see I'm busy with your sister? Go wash it off yourself. You're a big girl." I wasn't a big girl. I was 7. But I went to the bathroom, washed the blood away with cold water, and put a Band-Aid on it myself. That was the beginning of my independence. My parents loved to tell their friends how independent I was. "Emma is so self-sufficient," they would say at dinner parties. "We never have to worry about her." They said it like it was a compliment, but I knew what it really meant. It meant they didn't want to worry about me. It meant they didn't want to put in the effort. Independent was just a nice word for neglected. As we got older, the difference between Laya and me became about money and time. Laya was the fragile one. She was the one who needed help. If she got a C on a test, my parents hired a private tutor. If I got an A on a test, they nodded and said, "Good." They expected it. They never celebrated it, they just expected it. When we were teenagers, the difference became impossible to ignore. I remember the year Laya turned 16. My parents threw her a massive party. They rented a hall. They bought her a beautiful dress. And the big surprise at the end of the night was a car. It was a brand new white sedan with a big red bow on top. Laya screamed and jumped and hugged them. My father had tears in his eyes. "You deserve it, princess," he said. 2 years later, I turned 16. I came downstairs for breakfast, hoping for something special. My mother was drinking coffee. My father was reading the paper. "Happy birthday," my mom said, not looking up. "There are pancakes on the stove." That was it. No party. No car. When I asked about a car a few weeks later because I needed to get to my part-time job, my father laughed. "We can't afford another car, Emma. You have a job. You can save up for a used one. It builds character." So I did. I walked 3 miles to my job at a diner every day after school. I saved every penny. I bought a rusted, old car that smelled like cigarettes. I paid for my own gas. I paid for my own insurance. Meanwhile, Laya crashed her new car 3 months after she got it. My parents didn't get mad. They just bought her another one because she needed to be safe. The biggest blow came when it was time for college. Laya was 2 years older than me. When she got into a private university, my parents were ecstatic. They paid her full tuition. They paid for her dorm. They gave her a monthly allowance for clothes and parties. They said education was the most important thing. 2 years later, I got into a better university than Laya. It was a great school with a great program. I laid the acceptance letter on the kitchen table, waiting for them to be proud. My father looked at the tuition cost and frowned. "We can't do this, Emma." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You paid for Laya." "That was different," my mother said. "Laya needed the support. You are smart, Emma, you can get scholarships. You can work, we just don't have the money right now to pay for everything for you." It was a lie. I knew they had money. They had just bought a vacation timeshare. They just didn't want to spend the money on me, so I took out loans. Massive student loans. I worked 2 jobs while taking full-time classes. I worked in the library during the day and waited tables at night. I was exhausted for 4 years. I missed parties. I missed trips. I missed sleep. I remember moving into my dorm room freshman year. I drove myself there in my rusty car, my trunk full of cheap boxes. I carried everything up 3 flights of stairs by myself. I saw other girls with their parents. Fathers were assembling bookshelves. Mothers were making the beds and hugging their daughters goodbye. I set up my room alone. I sat on my bare mattress and ate a sandwich I had made that morning. I didn't cry. I had stopped crying when I was 7. I just hardened. I built a wall around my heart. I told myself I didn't need them. I told myself I was strong. But deep down, I wanted them to ask. Just once I wanted them to ask, "Emma, do you need help? Emma, are you okay? Emma, we are proud of you." They never did. When I came home for holidays, they asked how my grades were, but they never asked how I was paying the bills. They assumed I would figure it out. And because I always did figure it out, they felt justified. They told themselves I was fine. They didn't see the dark circles under my eyes. They didn't see the stress. They didn't see the loneliness. They only saw that I wasn't asking them for money, so I must be okay. Laya, on the other hand, called home every week asking for something. She needed rent money. She needed money for a sorority trip. She needed money because she spent too much on shoes. And every time my father wrote the check, "She's struggling," he would say. "We have to help family." I was family too, but I wasn't the right kind of family. I was the invisible daughter. I was the backup plan. I was the one who existed in the background, making sure I didn't cause any trouble, while Laya stood in the spotlight, consuming everything they had to give. As we became adults, I thought things might change. I thought once we were both out of the house, the playing field would level out. I was wrong. The pattern didn't change, it just got more expensive. My life milestones were treated like items on a checklist. Laya's milestones were treated like national holidays. When Laya got engaged to Noah, it was chaos for a year. My mother talked about nothing else. They planned a wedding that cost more than my entire college education. My mother dragged me to dress fittings, not for me, but to carry Laya's bags and give opinions that they would ignore. I was the maid of honor. That sounds nice, but really, I was the unpaid wedding planner. Laya was disorganized and emotional. She would call me at midnight crying because the flowers were the wrong shade of pink. "You have to fix it, Emma," she would wail. "Mom says you're good at details." So I fixed it. I called the florist. I negotiated with the caterer. I addressed 500 invitations by hand because Laya said her hand hurt. On the day of the wedding, I was running around like a crazy person. I made sure the guests were seated. I fixed Laya's veil. I held her dress while she peed. I didn't eat all day. During the reception, my father gave a toast. He stood up with a microphone, looking handsome in his tuxedo. He spoke for 10 minutes about how beautiful Laya was, how special she was, how much joy she brought to the family. He welcomed Noah as the son he never had. He didn't mention me once. Not even a thanks to Emma for helping. I stood in the back of the room, holding Laya's emergency makeup kit, and smiled until my face hurt. A year later, I got a big promotion at work. I had been working at a marketing firm for 3 years, grinding, staying late, proving myself. They made me a senior manager. It was a huge deal. My salary doubled. I finally felt like my hard work was paying off. I called my parents to tell them. "Mom, Dad, I have news," I said, excited. "Oh, that's nice," my mom said, her voice distracted. "Hold on, Emma. Laya is on the other line. Her baby has a fever." She clicked over. She left me on hold for 10 minutes. When she came back, she didn't even ask what my news was. "Sorry, Emma. Little Mikey has a temperature of 99. We have to go over there and help Laya. She's panicking." "But Mom, I got promoted," I said quickly. "I'm a senior manager now." "That's good, honey. That's really good. That means you're secure. We're proud of you. Okay, we have to go. Bye." The line went dead. I sat in my apartment, holding my phone, listening to the silence. Secure? That was the word they used. Not wonderful, not amazing. Just secure. They liked that I was secure because it meant they didn't have to worry about me. It meant I could stay in my box, quietly successful, while they rushed to save Laya from a low-grade fever. Then came the baby showers, the christenings, the birthday parties for my nephew. Each one was a production. My parents poured money into Laya's new family. They bought the crib. They bought the stroller. They started a college fund for Mikey before he was even born. I remember asking my dad about retirement once. I was worried they were spending too much. "Dad, are you sure you can afford all this?" I asked. "Laya and Noah should be paying for their own baby gear." My dad got defensive. "It's our grandchild, Emma. It's our joy. You'll understand when you have kids. Besides, Laya and Noah are just starting out. It's hard for young couples these days." I was a young couple. Well, I was a young, single woman, and it was hard for me too. But that didn't matter. The most painful moment of the pattern happened 2 years ago. I was sick. I had a severe flu, maybe even pneumonia. I was living alone in the city. I felt like I was dying. I couldn't get out of bed to get water. I was burning up with fever. I called my mother. My voice was raspy and weak. "Mom, I'm really sick," I whispered. "I need help. Can you come or maybe send Dad?" "Oh, Emma," she said. "We can't right now. We promised to watch Mikey this weekend so Laya and Noah could go to a winery for their anniversary. They really need this break. They've been so stressed." "Mom, I can't walk to the kitchen," I said, tears leaking out of my hot eyes. "Order some soup delivery, honey. Take some Tylenol. You're tough. You'll shake it off. Call us on Monday." She hung up. I laid in my bed for 3 days, fading in and out of consciousness. Finally, my friend Ava, who I hadn't known very long at the time, came over to check on me because I wasn't answering texts. She found me dehydrated and scared. She took care of me. She brought me Gatorade and soup. She sat by my bed and put cool cloths on my forehead. Ava, a friend, did what my mother refused to do. When I talked to my parents the next week, they acted like nothing happened. "Feeling better?" my dad asked cheerfully. We saw the pictures from the winery. Laya looked so happy. That was the pattern. My pain was an inconvenience to them. Laya's pleasure was a priority. My achievements were expected chores. Laya's achievements were miracles. I started to feel less like a daughter and more like a utility. I was like the electricity or the running water in their lives. They only noticed me if I stopped working. As long as I was functioning, paying my bills and staying quiet, they ignored me. But if the electricity goes out, people panic. And my family was about to face a blackout they didn't see coming. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was at my apartment, enjoying the quiet. I had just made coffee and opened a book. My phone rang. It was my father. "Emma," he said. His voice was serious, not the cheerful voice he used when talking about Laya's kid. This was his business voice. "We need you to come to the house. Now, is everything okay?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "Is Mom okay? Just come, it's a family meeting, it's urgent." He hung up. I drove to my parents' house with a knot in my chest. I thought someone had cancer. I thought someone had died. I thought there was a genuine tragedy. When I walked into the house, the atmosphere was heavy, but it wasn't sad. It was tense. My parents were sitting at the dining room table. Laya and Noah were there, too. Laya's eyes were red and puffy, like she had been crying for hours. Noah, her husband, was looking down at his lap, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. There was no food on the table, no coffee, just a mountain of papers, envelopes with red stamps, menacing-looking letters. "What's going on?" I asked, putting my purse down. "Sit down, Emma," my mother said. She sounded tired but also determined. I sat. I looked at the papers. I saw the logos, a bank, a credit card company, a mortgage lender, and a letter from the private school where Mikey went to kindergarten. "Laya and Noah are in a bit of trouble," my father said. He said it softly, gently, protecting them even now. "A bit of trouble?" I reached out and took one of the papers. It was a foreclosure warning. "Dad, this is a foreclosure notice. This isn't a bit of trouble, they are losing their house." Laya let out a sob. "It's not our fault," she cried. "The interest rates went up, and Noah's bonus wasn't as big as we thought, and everything is so expensive." I looked at Noah. He was wearing a designer watch. Laya was wearing a sweater that I knew cost $300. Their car in the driveway was a luxury SUV. "How much?" I asked directly. My father pushed a piece of paper toward me. He had done the math. He had added it all up. I looked at the number. It was staggering. It was tens of thousands of dollars. It was credit card debt, overdue mortgage payments, unpaid tuition, car payments. They were drowning. They had been living a life they couldn't afford for years, probably banking on my parents to bail them out. "We've gone through our savings," my mother said. "We gave them what we could last month, but it wasn't enough. We can't touch our retirement accounts without a huge penalty." I looked at them. Okay, so they need to sell the house. They need to sell the cars. They need to move into an apartment and get jobs that pay better. Or spend less. The room went silent. They looked at me like I had suggested we sell Laya into slavery. "Emma," my mother said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "they can't move. Mikey is in school. They can't disrupt his life. And they can't sell the cars. They need them for work. Image is important in Noah's line of work." "So what is the plan?" I asked. I truly didn't know what they expected. If you have no money and they have no money, then they have to change their lifestyle. My father cleared his throat. He looked me right in the eye. He didn't look ashamed. He looked expectant. "We need you to handle the rest, Emma." I froze. I thought I heard him wrong. "What? You're the only one with liquid assets," he said calmly. "We know you've been saving. You have that promotion money. You don't have a family to support. You have low expenses. You can cover the arrears and get them back on track." I looked around the table. Laya was looking at me with big, wet, pleading eyes. Noah was still looking at the floor, the coward. My parents were looking at me with that same expression they always had, the expectation that I would fix things. They didn't ask me. They didn't say, "Emma, would you consider helping?" They just presented it as the solution. Problem A. Laya has debt. Solution B, Emma pays it. "You want me to pay their debt?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. "All of it." "Just the urgent stuff," my mother said quickly. "The mortgage, the tuition, the credit cards can wait a little bit. But we need to stop the foreclosure and keep Mikey in school." "It's about $40,000 right now," my father said, "to stop the bleeding." $40,000. That was my down payment for a house I wanted to buy one day. That was my emergency fund. That was my freedom. "Why?" I asked. "Because we are family," my mother said. "And family helps family." But they didn't mean family helps family. They meant Emma helps Laya. Always. The unfairness of it hit me like a physical blow. I looked at the papers again. I saw charges for vacations. Charges for expensive dinners. Charges for clothes. While I was eating sandwiches and saving every penny, they were living like kings. And now, my parents wanted me to pay for the party I wasn't even invited to. "This is a crisis," my father said, sensing my hesitation. "We don't have time for debate, Emma. They have until Tuesday." It was Sunday. They had waited until the last possible second, and now they were dumping the bomb in my lap. The silence in the dining room was thick. I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Each second felt like a demand. "You don't have the same expenses," my mother said, breaking the silence. She spoke as if she was explaining a simple math problem to a child. "You live in a small apartment. You drive an older car. You don't have children. It just makes sense, Emma." "It makes sense," I repeated. "It makes sense that I work 60 hours a week, save my money, and deny myself things so that I can pay for Laya's vacations and Noah's watch." "Don't be petty," my father snapped. It was the first time he raised his voice. "This isn't about watches. This is about your sister's home. This is about your nephew's stability. Are you really going to let them be homeless because you want to hoard money?" Hoard money. That's what he called my savings. My safety net. The money I saved because I knew no one else would ever help me. "I'm not hoarding," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm saving for my own future. I want to buy a house too. I want to have a family one day too." Laya sniffled loudly. "We really need you, Emma. Please, I promise we'll pay you back." "How?" I asked her. "How will you pay me back? You can't even pay your electric bill." "We'll figure it out," she cried. "Noah is up for a promotion next year." "Next year?" I laughed, a dry, humorless laugh. "So for the next year I'm supposed to support you." "We knew you'd come through," my father said, ignoring my question. He was using a technique he used in business. "Assume the sale is made. Assume the agreement. I'll call the bank tomorrow and tell them the funds are coming. You can wire the money to Laya's account on Monday morning." He stood up, signaling the meeting was over. He was so confident. He was so sure of my place in the hierarchy. I was the reliable one, the strong one, the one who didn't need anything and had everything to give. They assumed my entire life existed to fill the holes in theirs. They thought my money was actually family money, meaning Laya's money. I looked at my mother. She was walking over to Laya, hugging her. "It's going to be okay, sweetie. Emma is going to handle it. Don't cry." She was comforting the person who caused the problem. She wasn't looking at me. She wasn't thanking me. She wasn't asking if this would hurt me financially. She was just relieved that her favorite daughter was safe. I felt a coldness spread through my chest. It wasn't anger anymore. It was clarity. For 30 years, I had been fighting for a position in this family that didn't exist. I wanted to be valued. I wanted to be respected. But to them, I was just a resource. I was an insurance policy. If I paid this money, it would never end. Next year, it would be a new car, then a renovation, then Mikey's college. If I paid this now, I was signing a contract to be their servant for the rest of my life. My father turned to me. "Well, can we count on the transfer Monday morning?" He looked impatient. He wanted to go watch the football game. He wanted this little problem to go away so he could relax. I looked at him. I looked at my mother coddling Laya. I looked at Noah, the man who couldn't provide for his family but wouldn't sell his luxury car. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but my mind was sharp. "I need to check my accounts," I lied. I needed time. I needed to get out of that house. The air was suffocating me. "What is there to check?" my mother asked sharply. "You told me last month you hit your savings goal." "I need to move some things around," I said. "It's a lot of money, Mom. I can't just snap my fingers." "Okay," my father said. "But don't take too long. Monday morning. It has to be there." "Give me 24 hours, I said. "Fine, 24 hours, he agreed. I grabbed my purse. I didn't say goodbye. I walked out the front door, down the walkway, and got into my car. As I started the engine, I looked back at the house. It looked so warm and inviting from the outside. But inside, it was a trap. I drove away. I didn't go home immediately. I pulled into a parking lot of a grocery store and just sat there, gripping the steering wheel. I realized something in that parking lot. They didn't love me. They loved what I could do for them. And if I stopped doing it, if I stopped being the good daughter who cleaned up the mess, they would hate me. But looking at my bank balance on my phone and thinking about the years of lonely birthdays and neglected milestones, I realized something else. I didn't care anymore. I wasn't going to just give them the money. I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. If they wanted my help, they were going to have to play by my rules. For the first time in my life, I held the cards. They needed me, I didn't need them. I put the car in gear. I wasn't going to my apartment. I was going to Ava's house. I needed a witness. And I needed a plan. I drove away from my parents' house with a strange feeling in my chest. It wasn't anger anymore. Anger is hot and messy. This felt cold. It felt like ice water running through my veins. For the first time in my life, I wasn't crying over them. I wasn't wondering what I did wrong. I was just calculating. I didn't go straight to my apartment. I couldn't be alone. If I was alone, I might talk myself out of it. I might convince myself that I was being mean, or that my father was right and I was hoarding money. I needed someone who saw the truth. I pulled into the parking lot of Ava's building. Ava had been my friend since college. She was the one person who knew everything about my family. She was the one who brought me soup when I had pneumonia, and my mother went to a winery. She was the one who listened to me cry on Christmas Eve when my parents forgot to save me a plate of food. I knocked on her door. It was Sunday evening. She was wearing sweatpants and reading a magazine. When she saw my face, she dropped the magazine instantly. "What happened?" she asked. She pulled me inside and locked the door. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I think the ghost is gone," I said. I sat down at her small kitchen table. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of finally saying no. "They want $40,000, Ava, by tomorrow." Ava's eyes went wide. She sat down opposite me. "40,000 for what?" I told her everything. I told her about the family meeting. I told her about the foreclosure notice on the table. I told her about Noah's designer watch and Laya's tears. I told her how my father looked me in the eye and said, "We knew you'd come through." I told her how my mother hugged Laya and ignored me. When I finished, the room was silent. I could hear the refrigerator humming. "They are unbelievable," Ava said finally. Her voice was low and angry. "They aren't asking you for a favor, Emma. They are robbing you. They are taking your future to pay for Laya's past." "I know," I said. I looked down at my hands. "But if I don't help, they lose the house. My nephew loses his school. I can't be the reason Mikey is homeless." "You aren't the reason," Ava said sharply. "Laya and Noah are the reason. Your parents are the reason. You are just the cleanup crew. If you pay this, Emma, they will never stop." Next year it will be a car, then a vacation, then college. You will be their bank account until the day you die. I know, I repeated. That's why I need a plan. I told them to give me 24 hours. I took a deep breath. I'm going to give them the money, but not as a gift and not as a daughter. Then how? As a lender, I said. I'm going to treat this like a business deal. My father loves business. He respects contracts. He respects leverage. Well, right now, I have all the leverage. They are desperate. If they want my money, they have to agree to my terms. I opened my laptop. I need you to help me write a contract. For the next 6 hours, Ava and I turned her kitchen into a war room. We made coffee. We got out legal pads. We researched loan agreements online. The first step was securing myself. Before I could help them, I had to make sure they couldn't hurt me. I logged into my bank account. The number on the screen represented 10 years of skipped vacations, overtime shifts, and brown bag lunches. It was my freedom fund. I opened a new account at a completely different bank, a bank my parents didn't use. I initiated a transfer for the majority of my savings, leaving just enough in the old account to cover the loan amount. Why are you moving it? Ava asked. Because I don't trust them, I said, typing in my password. If my dad knows which bank I use, he might try to talk a teller into giving him information. He's done it before. I need to be invisible to them financially. I clicked transfer. It felt like locking a heavy door. Next, I changed my beneficiaries. For years, my life insurance policy listed parents as the beneficiaries. If I died, they would get everything. I deleted their names. I typed in Ava Miller as the temporary beneficiary until I could set up a trust. You don't have to do that, Ava said. Yes, I do, I said. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I don't want my death to pay for Laya's new swimming pool. Then, we started on the contract. It had to be perfect. It had to be undeniable. I didn't want a handwritten note on a napkin. I wanted something that looked terrifyingly official. Loan agreement lender, Emma J. Vance borrowers, Laya and Noah P. Davis guarantors. Robert and Susan Vance Section 1. The principal. The amount was $42,500. We added $2,500 to the original request to cover a buffer for the lawyers I might need later. Section 2. The interest. You have to charge interest, Ava said. If you don't, the IRS considers it a gift, and psychologically, if it's free, they won't respect it. 5%, I suggested. That's lower than a mortgage rate, but high enough to be real. 5%, Ava agreed. We calculated the monthly payments. It would take them 5 years to pay me back. 5 years of writing a check to the sister they ignored. Section 3, the conditions. This was the most important part. This was where the money stopped being just currency and started being a tool for change. They have a spending problem, I said. If I pay off their debt, but they don't change their habits, we'll be back here in 6 months. I typed out condition A. The borrowers must attend certified financial counseling once a month for 12 months. Proof of attendance must be emailed to the lender by the 5th of every month. Failure to attend results in the immediate demand for full repayment. That's good, Ava said. It forces them to learn. Now for the hard part, I said. I stared at the blinking cursor. The family dynamic, the way they treat me, I can't fix it with money, but I can force them to look at it. I typed condition B. The guarantors, mom and dad, and the borrowers must attend family therapy sessions with the lender. These sessions will occur twice a month for the first 6 months. The therapist will be selected by the lender. The cost of therapy will be split between the borrowers and the guarantors. They are going to hate that, Ava said. Your dad doesn't believe in therapy. He thinks it's for weak people. He also thinks paying his own bills is for other people, I said dryly. He doesn't have a choice. If he wants to save his reputation and keep his daughter in her house, he sits on the couch and talks about his feelings. Then came condition C. The one I was most scared to write. I need them to admit it, Ava, I whispered. I need them to admit that it wasn't fair. For 30 years, they've gaslit me. They told me I was imagining it. They told me I was just independent while Laya was needy. I need it on paper. I typed slowly. Acknowledgement of disparity. The guarantors and borrowers acknowledge that historically, financial and emotional resources within the family have been disproportionately allocated to Laya Davis, resulting in the neglect of Emma Vance. This loan is a corrective measure to prevent catastrophe, not a continuation of entitlement. The undersigned admit that previous support was unequal. I read it out loud. It sounded harsh. It sounded clinical, but it was the truth. Is it too mean? I asked. Ava shook her head. It's not mean, Emma, it's reality. They've been living in a fantasy world where they are perfect parents and you are just naturally self-sufficient. You are popping their bubble, that's not mean. That's necessary. We finished drafting at 2 a.m. I printed 3 copies, I put them in plain manila folders. I held the folder in my hand. It felt heavy, it contained my dignity. You can sleep here, Ava said. Don't go back to your apartment. They might come over. They might try to guilt-trip you before the deadline. She was right. My mother would probably show up at my door at 7 a.m. with muffins and a sad story. I slept on Ava's couch. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. I thought about the little girl I used to be. The girl who waited by the window for her dad to come home, only to watch him walk right past her to pick up Laya. The girl who learned to cook her own dinner at age 10 because mom was too tired after dealing with Laya's drama. I whispered into the dark room. I've got you, Emma. I'm taking care of you now. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for them to save me. I was saving myself. The next day passed in a blur of anxiety. I went to work, but I couldn't focus. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. My mother texted me 5 times. Emma, are you coming? Emma, the bank closes at 5. Emma, please don't let us down. I didn't reply. I let them sweat. I needed them to understand that my time was mine, not theirs. At 4:30 p.m., I left work. I drove to my parents' house. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawn. From the outside, the house looked like the American dream. Inside, I knew it was a nightmare of debt and denial. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. This was it. This was the moment I stopped being the doormat and became the door. I grabbed the manila folder and Ava, who had insisted on coming with me, squeezed my hand before I got out of the car. I'll be right here, she said. If you're not out in an hour, I'm coming in. I walked up the front path. I unlocked the door with my key, a key I realized I should probably give back after today. The house was quiet but tense. It smelled like stress, stale coffee, and nervous energy. I walked into the living room. They were all there. My father was pacing by the fireplace. My mother was sitting on the edge of the sofa, twisting a tissue in her hands. Laya and Noah were sitting at the dining table, looking like children waiting for the principal. When I walked in, the relief on their faces was immediate and insulting. They didn't look happy to see me. They looked happy to see the solution. Oh, thank God, my mother breathed. She stood up and reached for me. We were so worried. We thought maybe you changed your mind. I stepped back, avoiding her hug. I didn't change my mind, but the situation has changed. What do you mean? My father asked. He stopped pacing. He looked at my empty hands. Where is the check? We need to wire the funds first thing tomorrow morning. The money is ready, I said, keeping my voice calm and low. But we need to discuss the terms. Terms? Laya piped up. Her voice was high and whiny. Emma, we don't have time for this. We're going to lose the house. You might, I said. That depends on you. I walked over to the dining table and placed the folder in the center. It made a solid thud sound. Sit down, I told my parents. They hesitated. They weren't used to me giving orders. But the desperation in the room was palpable, so they obeyed. They sat. This is a loan agreement, I said. If you want the $42,000, you are going to sign this. A loan? My father frowned. He reached for the folder and flipped it open. Emma, we're family. We don't need contracts. We trust you. I don't trust you, I said. The words hung in the air. My mother gasped. Emma, that is a terrible thing to say. Is it? I looked her in the eye. You asked me to empty my life savings to pay for Laya's mistakes. You didn't ask if I could afford it. You didn't ask what I was saving for. You just assumed I would do it. That's not trust, Mom. That's entitlement. My father was reading the document. His face was turning redder by the second. 5% interest, he barked. You're charging your sister interest. You're trying to make a profit off her misery. The bank would charge her 7%, I said. I'm giving her a discount. And I'm losing the interest I would have earned if I kept that money invested. It's fair. This is ridiculous, Noah muttered. He finally spoke up. We can't afford monthly payments. That's why we're in this mess. Then sell the car, I said, pointing out the window at his SUV. Sell the designer watch you're wearing, Noah. If you want my money, you have to live like people who are in debt, not like people who just won the lottery. Noah shut his mouth. He looked down at his watch, ashamed. Keep reading, I said to my father. Section 4. My father flipped the page. He read silently for a moment, then he stopped. His jaw tightened. He looked up at me with cold, hard eyes. Therapy, he said. You want to mandate therapy? Yes, I said. Twice a month, all of us. We don't need therapy, my mother said quickly. We just need to get through this financial bump. It's not a bump, Mom. It's a pattern, I said. And I'm not funding the pattern anymore. If you want the check, you get in the car and go to Dr. Evans with me. And what is this? My father pointed to the bottom of the page. His finger was shaking. Condition C, acknowledgement of disparity. He read it out loud. His voice dripped with disgust. Financial and emotional resources have been disproportionately allocated to Laya. Emma has been neglected. He threw the paper down on the table. I will not sign this. This is a lie. We have always treated you equally. Did you? I asked. I felt a surge of power. I wasn't shouting, I was just stating facts. Who paid for Laya's college? That was different, my mother said automatically. Who paid for my college? I asked. Silence. Who got a car at 16? I asked. Silence. Who got a down payment for their house? I asked. Silence. Who was left alone with pneumonia because you wanted to go wine tasting? I asked. My mother flinched. We said we were sorry about that. You didn't, I corrected her. You said I was tough. You said I could handle it. That's not an apology. That's an excuse. I leaned forward, placing my hands flat on the table. I am not asking you to agree with me in your hearts, I said. I know you can't do that yet. I am asking you to acknowledge the reality of the money. You gave her everything. You gave me nothing. And now you are asking me for everything. If you want it, you have to admit that the balance is zero. This is humiliating, my mother whispered. She was crying now, tears streaming down her carefully applied makeup. You are trying to humiliate us in front of Laya and Noah. Humiliation is when the truth feels heavier than you expected, I said. I'm not humiliating you. I'm holding you accountable. You aren't used to it, so it feels like an attack. Laya looked at the contract. She looked at the foreclosure notice. She looked at her husband, who was uselessly staring at the floor. Dad, Laya said, her voice trembling. We have to sign it. Laya, my father snapped, have some pride. Pride won't pay the mortgage, Laya screamed. It was the first honest thing she had said in years. We are going to lose the house tomorrow. I don't care about the therapy. I don't care about the acknowledgement. I just don't want to be homeless. She grabbed the pen I had left on the table. She signed her name violently, the pen tearing through the paper. She shoved it toward Noah. Sign it, she hissed. Noah signed. Now it was up to my parents, the guarantors. If they didn't sign, the deal was off. My father looked at me. He looked for the little girl who used to seek his approval. He looked for the daughter who would do anything for a pat on the head. He didn't find her. He saw a woman who was tired, a woman who was done, a woman who had the checkbook. You've become very hard, Emma, he said quietly. It sounded like an accusation. I learned from the best, I replied. He picked up the pen. His hand hovered over the paper. He read the sentence again, the one that said he had neglected me. It hurt his ego. It hurt his image of himself as the perfect father. But he was a pragmatist. He knew the math. He signed. He slid the paper to my mother. She couldn't even look at me. She just signed her name, her hand shaking so bad the signature was barely legible. I reached out and took the folder. I checked every signature. I checked the dates. Okay, I said. I closed the folder. I will wire the money to the bank directly tomorrow morning. I will not send it to Laya. I will pay the creditor myself. You don't trust us to even handle the transfer? My father asked bitterly. No, I said. I don't. I stood up. My legs felt light like I was floating. I'll email you the details for the first therapy session, I said. It's next Thursday. Emma, my mother said as I turned to leave. Will you stay for dinner? We ordered pizza. I looked at them. They were exhausted, angry, and ashamed. They didn't want me to stay for dinner because they wanted my company. They wanted me to stay so they could pretend everything was normal. They wanted to smooth it over. No, I said. I'm going to go have dinner with Ava. But we're celebrating, my mother said weakly. We saved the house. You didn't save the house, I said. I did. I walked to the door. I didn't look back. I walked out into the cool evening air. Ava was waiting in the car. When she saw me, she unlocked the doors. I got in and slammed the door shut. The sound was final. Did they do it? Ava asked. They did, I said. I tapped the folder on my lap. I own them now. I started the car. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. The house was still there. The lights were on. It looked the same. But I knew that inside, everything had broken. And for the first time, I wasn't the one picking up the pieces. driving away from my parents' house felt different than any other time I had left them. Usually, when I left their house, I felt heavy. I would drive home replaying every insult in my head, wondering why I wasn't good enough, wondering why they didn't ask about my day. I would usually cry on the drive home. This time, my eyes were dry. My hands were steady on the wheel. The car was quiet. Ava was sitting next to me. She didn't say anything for the first 10 minutes. She just let me drive. She knew I needed the silence. We pulled into a diner about 5 miles away from my parents' neighborhood. It was a place I used to go to in high school when I didn't want to go home. We walked in and sat in a booth in the back. The vinyl seat was sticky. The air smelled like fried onions and coffee. It was the most comforting smell in the world. The waitress came over. "What can I get you girls?" "Coffee," I said, "black and a slice of cherry pie." "I'll have the same," Ava said. When the waitress left, Ava leaned across the table. She looked at the manila folder that was sitting on the table between us. It contained the signed contract. It contained the proof that my family was exactly who I thought they were. "You did it," Ava said softly. "I didn't think they would sign it. I thought your dad would tear it up." "He wanted to," I said. I ran my finger along the edge of the folder. "He really wanted to throw me out, but he did the math. He realized that his pride was expensive, but foreclosure is more expensive." "How do you feel?" Ava asked. I thought about the question. How did I feel? I searched for sadness. I searched for guilt. I searched for that familiar feeling of being the bad daughter. It wasn't there. "I feel distinct," I said. "That's the only word for it. For 30 years, I felt like I was just an extension of them, like I was their extra limb that they could use whenever they wanted. Now I feel like I've been cut off. And it doesn't hurt. It just feels clean." The coffee arrived. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. "They are going to try to break the contract, you know," Ava warned me. "Tomorrow morning, your mom is going to call. She's going to act like tonight didn't happen. She's going to try to soft-pedal the conditions." "I know," I said, "but I have the money. I haven't sent it yet. Until the bank transfer is confirmed, I still have the power." We sat in the diner for 2 hours. We didn't talk about them the whole time. We talked about work. We talked about a movie we wanted to see. We talked about Ava's cat. It was normal. It was the kind of conversation people have when they aren't carrying the weight of a dysfunctional family on their back. When I finally got back to my apartment that night, the silence was welcoming. I put the folder in my fireproof safe. I locked it. I checked my phone. I had 3 missed calls from my mother. I didn't listen to the voicemails. I turned my phone off. I took a hot shower, washing off the stress of the day. I put on clean pajamas. I got into bed. For the first time in my life, I didn't worry about whether they were mad at me. I knew they were mad, and I didn't care. The next morning at 8 a.m., I turned my phone back on. The texts flooded in. "Mom, Emma, please call me. We need to coordinate the transfer." "Mom, your father is very upset. You were very harsh last night." "Laya, bank calls open at 9. Please don't forget." I didn't reply to any of them. I sat down at my laptop with my coffee. I logged into my bank account. I saw the number. $42,500. It was a lot of money. It was my safety net. It was the money I had saved by eating ramen noodles and skipping vacations. It hurt to look at it. It hurt to know that I was about to give it to people who had never bought me a birthday present worth more than $50. But then I looked at the scanned copy of the contract on my desk. I looked at the signatures. I wasn't giving it to them. I was buying my freedom. I entered the routing number for the mortgage lender. I didn't send the money to Laya's personal account. I wasn't going to let her touch it. I paid the debt directly. "Confirm transfer," the screen asked. I clicked yes. The money vanished from my account. I felt a physical pinch in my stomach. But then I felt relief. It was done. The leverage was executed. I sent one group text to Mom, Dad, Laya, and Noah. The funds have been sent directly to the lender. The foreclosure is stopped. The first therapy session is scheduled for next Thursday at 6 p.m. Dr. Evans' office. Do not be late. I put the phone down. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen. I knew what this call was. This was the testing the boundary call. She wanted to see if I was still the banker or if I had gone back to being Emma. I answered. "Hello." "Hi, honey," my mother said. Her voice was bright, cheerful, completely fake. It was the voice she used when she wanted something. "We got the text. Thank you so much." Laya's so relieved, she's crying happy tears. "Good," I said. "She should be." Listen, my mom continued, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. About next Thursday. Dad has his golf league on Thursdays, and Laya has yoga. We were thinking maybe we could skip this first session. Give everyone time to cool down. We can start the therapy next month. I didn't say anything, I just listened to the silence on the line, I let it stretch out. Emma, she asked nervously. Are you there? I'm here, I said. If Dad goes to golf and Laya goes to yoga, that's fine. But if you miss the first session, the deal is void. I will call the bank and cancel the transfer. Or, if it's too late for that, I will sue for immediate repayment of the full amount plus legal fees. It's in the contract, Mom. Breach of contract triggers immediate repayment. You wouldn't do that, she said. She sounded shocked. You wouldn't sue your own father. I absolutely would, I said. My voice was calm. I am not your daughter right now, Mom. I am the lender. Does the bank care about Dad's golf game? No, she whispered. Then neither do I. Thursday, 6 p.m. Okay, she said. She sounded small, defeated. We'll be there. Good. Have a nice day. I hung up. My hands were shaking a little bit. It was hard. It went against every instinct I had to be nice, to be accommodating, to be the good girl. But I reminded myself that being the good girl had got me nothing but neglect. I went to work that day, and I felt taller. I walked into meetings and spoke up. I made decisions. I realized that the boundaries I was setting with my family were bleeding into the rest of my life. I was stopping the behavior of making myself small for other people's comfort. That evening, I went to the grocery store. I walked down the aisles. I bought expensive cheese. I bought the good wine. I bought flowers for myself. I ran into an old neighbor from my childhood street, Mrs. Higgins. Emma, she said, I saw your mother yesterday at the post office. She told me you guys are helping Laya out with her house. She said it's so wonderful how the family comes together. My mother was already spinning the story. She was telling people that we were helping Laya. She was taking credit for my money. Usually, I would have just smiled and nodded. I would have let my mother have her lie. Actually, I said to Mrs. Higgins, I gave them a loan. It's a business arrangement. Laya got herself into some trouble. Mrs. Higgins looked surprised. Oh, I see. Yeah, I said pleasantly. It's important to teach financial responsibility. Have a good night, Mrs. Higgins. I walked away. I didn't protect their secret. I didn't protect their image. The week passed slowly. I didn't visit them. I didn't call. Thursday arrived. I drove to Dr. Evans' office. It was in a medical building downtown. I sat in the waiting room. At 5:55 p.m., the door opened. My father walked in first. He looked angry. He was wearing his suit, looking stiff and uncomfortable. He didn't look at me. He walked straight to the magazine rack and pretended to read. My mother walked in next. She looked anxious. She gave me a weak, pleading smile, like she wanted me to tell her it was all a joke. Laya and Noah came in last. They looked like teenagers who had been grounded. Laya was sulking. Noah looked terrified. Hello, I said. Hi, my mother whispered. Let's go in, I said. We walked into the therapist's office. There were 5 chairs arranged in a circle. I sat in the chair that faced the door. I sat with my back straight. My family sat down around me. They looked at the floor. They looked at the walls. They looked anywhere but at me. Dr. Evans walked in. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a kind face. She sat down. She looked at all of us. So, she said, I have read the contract that brings you here. It is quite a unique document. She looked at my father. Robert, she said, why are you here today? My father cleared his throat. I'm here because my daughter forced me to be here. I see, Dr. Evans said. She turned to me. Emma, is that true? Yes, I said. I forced them to come because they asked me for $40,000, and my condition was that we finally tell the truth. And what is the truth? Dr. Evans asked. I looked at my family. I looked at the people who had made me feel invisible for 30 years. The truth, I said, is that I am tired of being the invisible bank account. The truth is that they love Laya and they use me. And today the bill is due. The room was silent. And in that silence, I felt the final brick of the boundary snap into place. I wasn't trapped in the room with them. They were trapped in the room with me. Change is not a movie montage. It doesn't happen in a 3-minute song. It is slow, grinding, awkward, and painful. The first month was a disaster. The therapy sessions were basically shouting matches, or more accurately, my father shouting and me sitting calmly while Dr. Evans mediated. I have provided for you your whole life, my father yelled in the second session. I put a roof over your head. I put food on the table. How dare you say I neglected you? You provided the basics, Dad, I said calmly. That's the legal requirement of being a parent. I'm talking about support. I'm talking about interest. When was the last time you asked me what I do for a living? Specifically, he stammered. You work in business. Marketing? I'm a senior director of strategy, I said. I manage a team of 20 people. I told you that 3 years ago, you forgot. But you know exactly what Noah does, and he's been unemployed twice in the last year. That's not fair, he grumbled. It is a fact, Dr. Evans interjected. Robert, Emma is presenting you with data. You are reacting with emotion. Why does her success make you uncomfortable? It was grueling. I would leave those sessions exhausted. I would drive to Ava's place and just lay on the floor. Is it worth it? Ava asked me one night. I don't know, I said, but at least I'm not holding it in anymore. Every time I say it out loud, I feel a little lighter. The financial part was also rocky. On the first of the month, the first payment was due, $708.33. I checked my account at 9 a.m. Nothing. I checked at noon. Nothing. I sent a text to Laya. Payment is due by 5 p.m. If it is not received, the late fee is $50. If it is not received by tomorrow, default proceedings begin. She texted back immediately. I'm trying, the bank transfer is stuck. Can I Venmo you? No, I wrote. Per the contract, it must be an OC transfer. Figure it out. At 4:55 p.m., the money hit my account. It was a small victory. But it was a victory. For the first time, Laya had to hustle to meet a deadline for me, instead of me hustling to save her. By the third month, things started to shift. The anger in the therapy room started to turn into something else. Exhaustion maybe, or resignation. My mother stopped trying to defend herself and started listening. We spent an entire session talking about the pattern. I brought in a list. I listed every major event in the last 10 years. Laya's wedding, parents' contribution $30,000. My role, unpaid planner. My graduation, parents' contribution, dinner at a chain restaurant. My role, driver. Laya's house, down payment gift, $20,000. My car, $0. Dr. Evans made them look at the list. Susan, she asked my mother, when you look at this list, what do you see? My mother put on her reading glasses. She looked at the paper. She traced the numbers with her finger. I see that we helped Laya a lot, she said quietly. And Emma, we didn't help Emma as much. Why? My mother looked at me. Her eyes were sad, because Emma never asked. She was always so quiet. She just did things. We thought she didn't need us. I needed you, I said. My voice cracked. It was the first time I showed emotion in the room. I needed you to offer. I shouldn't have to beg for my parents to care about me. Laya asks, so she gets. I don't ask, so I get nothing. That taught me that your love is something I have to negotiate for. My mother started to cry, but it wasn't the manipulative crying she used to do. It was real tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. We got lazy. It was easier to give to Laya because she was loud about her needs. You were quiet, so we ignored you. That was wrong. It wasn't a magic fix, but hearing my mother admit that she was lazy with her love was a breakthrough. It validated everything I had felt. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't ungrateful. I was just neglected because I was low maintenance. The biggest shift, however, came from Laya. In the 4th month, Laya came to therapy wearing a uniform. It was a polo shirt with a logo for a local boutique. I got a job, she announced. She didn't say it to brag, she said it nervously. That's great, Dr. Evans said. I had to, Laya said, looking at me. Noah's check wasn't enough to cover the loan payment to Emma and the grocery bill, so I'm working 3 days a week. She looked at me, waiting for me to make a snarky comment, waiting for me to say, it's about time. But I didn't. I looked at her tired face. I looked at her sensible shoes. Good for you, Laya, I said sincerely. How is it? It's hard, she admitted. My feet hurt. Customers are mean. I don't know how you've done this for 10 years. You get used to it, I said. For a second, we weren't the golden child and the scapegoat. We were just 2 women who knew what it felt like to have sore feet after a long shift. I sent the payment this morning, Laya added. I saw, I said. Thank you, it was a transaction. But it was also a moment of respect. She was paying me back. She was earning her way. By the 6th month, the atmosphere in the room was completely different. The anger was gone. It was replaced by a tentative, awkward peace. My father was the last to break. He held onto his pride like a shield. In our final mandated session, Dr. Evans asked us to say one thing we wanted from the future relationship. I went first. I want a relationship where I am not a resource. I want to be a daughter, not a bank. Laya went next. I want to learn how to take care of myself. I'm scared, but I want to do it. My mother said, I want to know Emma, the real Emma, not the one I assumed she was. Then it was my father's turn. He sat there, his hands clasped on his knees. He looked older. The stress of the near foreclosure and the reality check of the last 6 months had aged him. He looked at me. I want you to respect me again, he said. His voice was rough. I respect honesty, Dad, I said. I respect fairness. If you give me those things, I will respect you. He nodded slowly. I can do that, I can try. And the money, I asked. Are we clear on the money? We're clear, he said. Laya pays her own bills, you keep your own money, I see that now. We crippled her by helping her too much, and we pushed you away by helping you too little. He took a deep breath. You were right, Emma, about the contract. We needed a shock, we were sleepwalking. Hearing my father say, you were right, was something I never thought would happen. It didn't fix the past. It didn't give me back my childhood. But it gave me a future where I didn't have to fight him anymore. We walked out of that office into the parking lot. The sun was setting. Well, my mother said, standing by her car. That's it, 6 months. Yep, I said. Are you coming for Sunday dinner this week? She asked. She didn't demand it. She didn't assume. She asked. I thought about it. I checked my internal emotional state. Did I want to go? I'm busy this Sunday, I said. Ava and I are going to a concert. My mother's face fell slightly, but she caught herself. Okay, that sounds fun, have a good time. Maybe next week, I offered. Next week would be lovely, she said. She hugged me. It was a brief hug. It wasn't suffocating. I watched them drive away. Laya and Noah in their used sedan, my parents in their car. I walked to my car. I got in. I didn't feel lonely. I felt complete. I had forced them to see me. It took a crisis, it took money, and it took a contract. But they finally saw me. And more importantly, I saw myself. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the architect of my own life for years. I had been living in a small, dark apartment because I was saving every penny, terrified of the future. I was saving for a disaster. I was saving because I knew I had no safety net. But now, I realized that I was the safety net. I was the strong one, and I deserved to live in a place that reflected that. I bought a condo in the city. It wasn't a mansion, but it was beautiful. It had floor-to-ceiling windows. It had hardwood floors. It had a kitchen island made of white marble. On moving day, I didn't call my father to ask for his truck. I didn't call my mother to come help me pack. I hired a moving company. 3 strong men came and wrapped my furniture in plastic. They carried the heavy boxes. They drove the truck. I drove my car, with Ava in the passenger seat holding a plant. This is it, Ava said as we pulled up to the building. The new era, the Emma era, I joked. We spent the day unpacking. But it wasn't stressful. We played loud music. We ordered pizza. We drank champagne out of mugs because I hadn't unpacked the glasses yet. By Saturday morning, the place was mostly set up. I woke up early. The sun was pouring in through the big windows, filling the living room with golden light. It was quiet. I walked into my new kitchen. I started the coffee maker. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. I stood there, leaning against the counter, looking out at the city skyline. I thought about the always last version of Emma. That girl felt so far away now. That girl was desperate for a crumb of attention. That girl would have paid the $40,000 just to get a thank you that never would have come. I wasn't her anymore. My phone buzzed on the counter. I picked it up. It was a notification from my bank. Incoming transfer, $708.33 from Laya Davis. Note, loan payment 7. I smiled. It was like clockwork now. Every month, the reminder that I had stood my ground. Then, a text came in from my mother. Hi honey, just thinking of you. Hope the new apartment is settling in well. Dad found an old box of your childhood books in the attic. Do you want them, or should we donate them? I stared at the message. In the past, she would have just thrown them away without asking, or she would have dropped them off at my house without warning, cluttering up my space. Now she was asking. She was respecting my space. She was giving me the choice. I typed back. I'd love to look through them. I'll come by next Sunday to pick them up. Sounds great, she replied. We'll make lunch, taco bar. I know that's your favorite. I paused. She remembered my favorite food. It was a small thing, a tiny thing, but it mattered. Taco bar sounds perfect, I wrote. I put the phone down. Ava walked into the kitchen, yawning. She was wearing mismatched socks. "Who are you texting?" she asked, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "My mom," I said. "We're doing lunch next Sunday." "On purpose?" Ava raised an eyebrow. "On purpose," I said. "They're making tacos." Ava smiled. "Well, look at that, progress." "Yeah," I said, "progress." I picked up my coffee cup and walked over to the living room couch. I sat down and tucked my legs under me. I looked around my apartment. It was clean. It was bright. It was mine. I realized that forgiveness isn't a moment where everything magically becomes okay. It isn't forgetting the pain. I would never forget the feeling of sitting at that dining table being told I was last. Forgiveness is just deciding that the past doesn't get to control the future. I had taken the weapon, money, that they used to control the family, and I had turned it into a tool to fix it. I had stopped waiting for them to change, and I had forced the change myself. Families are like old houses. Sometimes the foundation cracks. Sometimes the roof leaks. You can ignore it and let it collapse, or you can do the hard, expensive, painful work of repairing it. I did the work. I paid the price. And now I could finally rest. I took a sip of my coffee. It was hot and bitter and perfect. Ava sat down next to me and opened a book. "What are we doing today?" "Nothing," I said. "Absolutely nothing." And for the first time in my life, nothing didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like peace. I closed my eyes and let the sunlight warm my face. I was first in my own life. And that was the only ranking that mattered.